It took almost 5 minutes for a few people to use up 3 jugs of precious drinking water before Chris's body temperature finally dropped. Will. Chris, whose eyes faded red, sat up from the ground abruptly, began to breathe heavily, saw his appearance, and a few people next to him, who looked nervous, swallowed his saliva.
Am I sick again?
That's right. Almost scared us to death. Luckily, you got sick here, and if it was in the middle of a hunt, it would be unimaginable.
Barry was relieved to see that every time Chris fell ill, he lost some of his memories.
This place is not safe. Let's go. Everyone get down to business first.
Chris picked up the clothes on the ground and began to lead the group towards the left fork in the R, while trying to remember everything just now. But there was no impression at all, only a feeling of fatigue from his body and a sharp pain like tearing. Soon, the group climbed the hillside, pushed the door and walked into the wooden house with the lights on. At this moment, there were 2 people in the room. One of them was a strong man, and the other was a young man in his 30s, because most of the people in the homeless area did not wash their faces, and it was difficult to see their true faces.
Chris, let me introduce you. This is my brother Hank. Brother, this is the Chris I mentioned to you.
Kevin introduced the 2 sides.
Hello. I used to hear my brother mention you. For so many years, you have always taken good care of him. Thank you.
Hank greeted with a smile, and then went straight to the point.
Friend, did you get what we wanted?
Where is the rice?
Chris asked rhetorically.
Don't worry, we people have always been talking.
As he spoke, the strong man reached out and lifted a blanket in the corner, leaking out a few sacks underneath.
Barry, give it to him.
Chris's stomach rumbled.
Brother, it seems that Kevin is not bragging. You do have some ability.
Hank took the chip, his eyes lit up, and then pointed to a backpack on the table and said,
It's barbecue in there. Everyone has been busy for so long. They must be hungry. Eat first.
Brother, it's really hard. Hunting has been getting harder and harder lately, and I haven't seen meat in a long time.
Kevin walked to the table in a few steps and took out a few fist-sized pieces of meat from his bag. I don't know what kind of animal meat it was, and the rest of the people also surrounded it when they saw this.
Everyone is a hard-working person, and it is also appropriate to take care of each other. You eat first, I'll go out, and we'll talk when you're done.
Hank greeted with a smile and walked out of the room.
Kevin, your brother is good. You also know how to bring us food.
A hunter munched on the barbecue, his eyes choking.
That's a must. My brother was raised by my parents since he was a child, and before my parents died, he swore at the grave that he would take care of our brothers.
Kevin nibbled on the barbecue and responded with a smug expression.
Let's eat it. I'll talk to him later, and see if there are any other work arrangements for us, so that you can all wear cotton pants for the winter this year.
Outside the wooden house.
After this thing is in hand, we can be considered to have survived.
The bearded man took the water purification chip in Hank's hand and said with an excited look in his eyes.
After the medicinal effect of those people in the house comes up, we just need to rush in and kill them, and we will be completely safe.
Can you spare my brother's life? His parents were kind to me after all.
After listening to the bearded man's words, a twinkle flashed in Hank's eyes.
What will happen if you rob EK Company's things? I don't believe you don't know. Even if these people are alive, they can't escape the pursuit. And for us, it's a huge hidden danger. There is a limit to how much this chip can be exchanged for other fortresses. And if you really want to keep him, you can only stay in the outcasts with him.
The strong man lowered his head and lit an old-world filter cigarette.
If you really want to protect him, I won't force you. But as a friend, I still remind you that to survive in this wasteland, don't set a bottom line for your own moral standards. Otherwise, you will definitely harm yourself in the end.
Will. Hank pondered for a moment, then lit a cigarette.
When I do it, I'll send him on his way myself.
After entering the city, there is endless beauty waiting for you. Be ruthless. You can live longer.
Seeing Hank's choice, a smile spread across his face, and the bearded man pulled out the flashlight on his waist and shook it twice at the darkness in the distance. Then, several dark shadows began to move in the direction of the wooden house.
Tell them, don't use guns. There are too many beasts here, so be careful of attracting any difficult guys.
Hank took a puff of his cigarette, and his eyes, illuminated by the charcoal fire, had no mercy anymore. In the room, Barry looked at Chris, who was holding the barbecue in his pocket.
Chris, why don't you eat it?
Leaving this piece of meat can be used as bait to catch more prey. Barry, why don't you eat it?
Chris smiled.
This year's drought in the displaced area, there are fewer and fewer things to eat. I want to save this piece of meat and go back to make jerky, now hungry. It's much better than being hungry in winter.
Barry followed Chris's example, wrapped the meat in a rag, and then walked to the corner, ready to grab 2 handfuls of brown rice to chew to satisfy his hunger. But when he opened the sack, his movements were suddenly stopped.
Chris, isn't that right? It's not brown rice. It's sand.
What did you say?
When Kevin heard this, he immediately straightened up, and when he saw the yellow sand in the bag, his eyes widened in surprise.
How could Hank lie to me? I'll have to ask him for an explanation.
Good on. Kevin had just taken a step before his legs went limp and he fell to the ground in embarrassment.
This meat is drugged.
At this time, the other hunter also felt weak and insisted on getting up, but fell straight to the ground. Bang-ding. At the same time, the door of the wooden house was kicked open, and 7 or 8 thugs wearing triangular scars rushed into the house with knives and axes, and began to cut down people on sight. Whoosh! A strong man saw that Chris and Barry had not fallen, and raised a fire axe in his hand and slashed at Chris, who quickly bent down, dodged, and stabbed the other party in the chest with his elbow, and stabbed him 3 times in the ribs like lightning. At the same time, the bone knife in the hand of the other person also stabbed Chris's body on the side, and at this angle, he couldn't dodge at all. The sharp knife in the bandit's hand swung quickly and stabbed Chris to the point. Will, Barry, who was standing at the back, drew his bowstring to the bridge, and the arrow whistled and hit his opponent's eyeballs with precision. And before he could pull out the second arrow, he was knocked to the ground.
Barry!
Chris lunged forward and stabbed the man with a single blow. Bang! At that moment, another man lunged forward and pinned Chris to the ground, the tip of the knife going straight to his throat. Spag! At this moment, Chris's bone knife had been taken off, and he could only hold the other party's wrist holding the knife tight, and began to wrestle with the other party. The pressure of the 2 strong men made Chris breathless and unable to get rid of it, and after a few seconds, the tip of the knife began to slowly approach Chris's neck. At this time, Chris felt the unbearable burning sensation in his body again.
Damn it, it's not supposed to come.
There was a sign of onset again.